What am I doing walking through this forest? I remember taking the last train to the station, and then I started walking home. Where am I now?
Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This infringement of copyright is called fair use, and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody. This means you. Happy Halloween, people. Let's talk about the Gregory Horror Show. Yeah, I'm taking yet another page out of Mr. Inter's book and reviewing the series of shorts known as Gregory Horror, which, fun fact, if you combine the series, each season would be about the length of a movie. Since I'm reviewing 3-hour-long seasons and 1.5-hour-long season, I won't break it down. I'll just take the whole series and review it as one big thing. Gregory Horror is an interesting one, to say the very least. At first, it could seem a bit creepy depending on how well you take this genre. After all, it is supposed to be a horror genre, and to an extent, at least the first season is. The majority of the show, though, in my opinion, is kind of funny. I mean, it's full of black comedy, which I have kind of really grown to respect and love. The Nightmare Begins is about a Japanese businessman who finds reality pretty boring, so he escapes involuntarily to the Gregory house, where Gregory Mouse stops torturing him and attempting to take away his individuality. I find out of the 4 seasons I've watched, this is definitely the most frightening, as it does actually do a good job at blurring what is real and what isn't, which is what this show is trying to do. I mean, you can try to keep track. Hell, even after watching the whole season twice, I'm still very unsure myself, so I think that can give you some sort of clue as to what I mean. The second guest tells the story of a woman who is swallowed by jealousy after her best friend's wedding ceremony. The second season, unlike the first season, really does hammer in why the woman is there, so there's no real M. Night Shyamalan twist like there was in The Nightmare Begins, and this can come off as tedious and annoying to viewers who have seen this season. It's not my favorite of the 4 seasons, nor is it my least favorite, but I will definitely say seasons 1 and 3 are so much better in many ways, one of which being the other seasons they don't insult your intelligence by outright saying, "Oh yeah, this woman is jealous." The Last Train is all about Gregory on a toy train named Ambition, as he tries escaping from the Gregory Horror House. This season is entirely humor-based, and is probably my favorite or second favorite of the 4 seasons, as it tells a story while being humor-based. It's really reminiscent of, well, most of my favorite cartoons right now, to be honest. Wander Over Yonder, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, and Rick and Morty. More so Steven U and Gravity Falls, as they're both ongoing, very intricate stories, which is very much what The Last Train is. But to a lesser extent of the other 3 I mentioned, as The Last Train still tells short stories in their short time frame of 2.5 minutes, and you probably don't even really need to know anything about the previous 2 seasons to really understand what's going on, like you would in season 2. And then I reach easily the weakest of the 4 seasons, The Blake Heart, which is actually supposed to be a side series according to the DVDs, apparently. This is easily my least favorite of the Gregory Horror. And it's not just because I have a bias against Catherine, the nurse of Gregory House, with a fetish for draining people's blood. No. This just feels too much like a soap opera. Consider it the Things Change of Gregory Horror Show. Nothing much explained as they try to force drama onto the viewer, giving basically little to no substance that we can actually care about. I guess unless Catherine is your favorite guest of the Gregory Horror Show, then have at it, Dracula. I will, however, say there are some pretty funny moments within this season. However, in the 30 minutes it gives, it feels a lot more like things changed than I'm actually leading on, as the good moments are very few and far between. I have to say, with each season of Gregory Horror, we do meet some very interesting characters, be it the common guest of Gregory, Catherine, Judgment Boy, and Hell's Chef, to more seasonal characters like the Common Man from seasons 3 and 4, and the Mirror from season 1. So I guess I'll start talking about some of my favorites, as while the stories are good, the characters are where the show really hits home. I'll avoid the mouse family of Gregory, James, and the mother, as you learn about them well enough while watching the show yourselves, and trust me, I advise you to. There is a reason the spoiler warning was made, and it was actually for this particular review. So some of my notable characters, or at least the characters that forever stick with me, one of them is Judgment Boy, which is obviously a fan favorite as he gives some very tricky hypotheticals, and whether the character is emotionally driven or monetarily driven really sets up these questions' answers in the case of, say, the businessman.
You're a businessman. Today you will sign a major contract that will change your life. But your girlfriend who you love has just been hit by a car. If you go to the hospital, you'll lose that contract. Now, which will you choose?
The jealous woman.
You're 26 years old.
You have a secure job and a wonderful boyfriend.
Then the day you're promoted, your boyfriend proposes.
Now, what are you gonna do?
Or even a train with sentience.
You have just reached a crossroad in life. Should you be going to the left, or should you be going to the right? Although the track has already been laid, you cannot help but hesitate when you learn that the passenger's fate depends on your decision.
Judgment Boy peers into the souls of others and tells them what they really would have done in those situations. And a character like that, of course, would certainly pique the interests of its viewership, mainly because you're busy wondering what the fuck he would ask you, which is certainly a great thinking point if you're ever bored one day and need something to distract yourself for a few minutes. There's the depressed musician who just wants to play his music for a crowd but winds up trying to kill them instead. Of course, the music one is one of them that stands out to me, but he stands out to me not as a music lover, no. He stands out to me as a struggling content creator who just wants to be seen, or in his case, heard, and his stories usually last about 2 episodes apiece, so there tends to be an unusual emphasis on this character and his struggles. It's very hard for him not to stand out beyond the crowd. There's the Cactus siblings, which are both painfully adorable in their own weird way. Yeah, Cactus Gunman challenges people to gunfights, and according to Wikipedia, Cactus Girl steals people's clothes, despite her never doing that in the show. Is that a video game or manga thing she does? Anyway, the relationship between the two is as painfully sweet as Mabel and Dipper's, despite what I said in the previous review, and it's really fun to watch within The Last Train and Bloody Cart. There's Death, the Swedish Grim Reaper, which has to be one of the nicest characters in the show. Okay, he's not Swedish, or at least it's never implied. He just wears the Swedish flag on his head in reference to the 7th seal. He may seem depressing at first, but realize he's actually trying to help the first and second guests escape the grid that is Gregory Mouse. Roulette Boy is also a good source of comic relief to the darker tones that the rest of the show gives off. Seriously, he's a light at the end of the tunnel, and he's far from the nicest character as you'll constantly land on bad squares that'll blow you up, basically. And now I'll move to my favorite of the guests, Neko Zombie, who is by far the nicest and the smartest of the guests, as he seems to know everything about the hotel and is willing to tell the main guest what he can do to help them escape, even going as far as to burn the hotel down himself. He's that much of a flaming badass, and is probably one of the most well-meaning characters you'll ever meet in any cartoon, much less in any horror genre, and his backstory really adds to his character.
So, you've discovered Neko Zombie. He comes from a neighboring family that used to cause us a lot of trouble.
I have to get out of here.
When he first got here, he was such a beautiful cat with the sleekest black fur. But then it happened. On a stormy night, just like this one. Someone took a needle and sewed everything shut. His eyes, his mouth, his ears, his whole face like a patchwork quilt.
Tragic. Anyway, I suggest Those who haven't seen this series, if you have about 3.5 hours to kill on Halloween, I suggest you give this a watch. I can almost promise you won't be disappointed unless this isn't your thing, in which case, I'm sorry.
Feel the burning deep inside your heart. If you truly want to destroy this world, come here. Step into the flames.
Do you know who I am? They call me Judgment Boy. Do you know?
If you would like to get caught up on future reviews, there's a link in the description below to a Facebook page. Basically, all that I'm gonna tell you. I mean, you can follow it. You can get all the updates to future reviews if you care. If not, I'm not gonna force you to do it. It's all up to you.